All right, guys, this is Ms. Pearl. We're going to go over a few questions from 7-6, Practice and Problem Solving. The tree diagram shows the sample space of two-digit numbers that can be created using the digits 6, 8, 4, and 5. What is the probability of choosing a number from the sample space that contains both 8 and 5? Be careful, because some of these questions say both, and some of them say an 8 or a 5. This is both, so let's look at our tree diagram. So if we look here, none of these are going to contain both an 8 and a 5. And now if we look here, there is one that contains both an 8 and a 5. So this one right here. The next one doesn't have any that contain both an 8 and a 5. And then right here, this contains both an 8 and a 5. So that means we have 2 out of a total of 12. All right, so we're going to reduce 2 out of 12, and we'll put in 1/6. Now our percent, so be careful here. If you use your calculator to do 1 divided by 6, it's going to give you 16.6 repeating percent. So I don't know if you guys know this, but 6 repeating is the same as 2/3. So they actually want you to put in 16 2/3 for this. All right, so that's important because I know they kept marking me wrong when I did the problem, because I was saying 17%. So that's something that the textbook does a little bit. They're not always that clear if they want you to round, if they want a fraction, a decimal, or what, but they want you to write the exact percent. This time is 16 2/3%. All right, so there are 2 possible outcomes that include both 8 and 5. And there are 12 possible outcomes which are equally likely. So let's check our work. Nice job. 3 fair coins are tossed with possible outcomes of heads and tails. Write a sample space with the equally likely outcomes, then find the probability of tossing at least 2 tails. So we want to make sure that we don't repeat anything that they already said. So I'm looking, we have heads and tails. Well, if we look up here, they have heads, tails, tails. So that means we needed a different combination. It's going to be heads, tails, heads. And this one we have tails and then heads. Well, up here they have tails, heads, heads. So we're going to do tails, heads, tails. The probability of tossing at least 2 tails is, all right, so I marked up the ones that have at least 2 tails. So we have 4 favorable outcomes out of 8 possible outcomes, which equals 1/2.